welcome to another session of my Not Your Average Bible Studies. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and this is going to be session 18, a follow-up, obviously, to 17, but a following day as well. Today is Monday morning. It's March 31st, 2025, and I had a bit of spare time, and I thought I would continue on with where I left off yesterday in chapter 10 and sort of pick it back up where I left off. There's so much here in these verses speaking about truth and energetics and how service exchanges speak for themselves and how intention is really the language being spoken, and understanding what intention we're really coming from and what we really want. What do we intend for ourselves? And what are our intentions with others? These are huge concepts. Ethical, there's morality, of course. But in itself, it can be plain as day. The organic world and infinite intelligence set up around us speaks continuously to us what the truths really are. How give and take works, ebb and flow, night and day, seasons. We have homeostasis, maintaining health within the body, maintaining temperature, maintaining normalcy, the seek for balance and neutrality that we see within people, we see within different species displayed, symbiotic relationships within diverse species even. There's the whole Darwinian survival of the fittest propaganda displayed all over, the overlay over there, and really forced down everybody's throats, so to speak. Well, truthfully, but there's so much more to it than they want us to see about that. And in fact, I just can't get behind survival of the fittest at all. And so many of us have debunked Darwin, and there's so many things behind him and his whole trips were fueled and funded and for agendas, and the conveniency of the Rockefeller lockstep march to pick up all of that through industrialized public schooling to create false parameters of slave master cycles that everyone would feed into and follow suit with, and to really dehumanize the human, and in my opinion, of course, demystify the human, take God out of everything. And yeah, anyways, I'm going to get on a rant now, and I don't wish to. I'd like to really keep the tone and the atmosphere here peaceful, joyful, and pleasant. So let's get back into the material, even though, some of the material is not always, pleasant to look at. It's asking us, how can we bring peace back to it? And much like I was saying in session 17 about, the apocalyptic times that we're in, these tumultuous times of society and world and empires falling and collapsing and, new things rising. It's so much like the times, or like we're told the times were in history of Jesus. And, the fall of Rome behind the scenes and all of that, sort of setting the backdrop as to comparable to what we have as our backdrop here today. I feel called to get into Second Coming talking about, but I'm not going to. But just the alignment of truth, and it's a segue into the verses, because what we've been talking about within the verses, or what I've been talking about, within the last verses that I was reading, is about system alignments and having the negative system and the positive system as the masters, and truth and lies also being what the masters represent. So we have the master of truth and we have the master of lies. And you can only serve one. And the lies is a negative formation of debt service, of usury, and of slavedom. And you know, it's pretty obvious how those systems work, because they're pay for play, and they are highly run off of like power and exclusion, and the hierarchies with forced directionality, need to know kind of thing, on all levels, on every way you're allowed to interact. You know, it's very initiation based and gate kept, and in a very rigid sequential way as well. It's very controlled and restricted. And these are all the words and flavorings and all the tones that go along with a negative service, self-serving, the opposite of what is upright organic service, the original, which is service to others and to all, because we are part of the whole. And when you serve all, you serve yourself, and when you serve yourself, you serve all. It's the one truth. It's pretty simple to remember and live by, you know. But again, we are in this place and space of manipulation, these times, and the veil to be pulled away. And for those who are ready to stand for what they see and speak on what they see, that's the time is now. Again, while it's the same reason why I kind of started this Bible study sessions in general. So thank you for joining me. If you're not new, you're used to me sort of rambling around and not getting down to what we're here for, but now I really will jump back into where I left off at, which I read through 26 in chapter 10. So I'm going to, well, let's start off with 26 actually, because, and I did my roundabout explanations and sort of talked over the chunks that I was reading through last session. I really did not touch on 26 too much. I got very caught up in 25 and the references of Beelzebub, and speaking about what that alignment to that master and what that could really mean, and also who is being spoken to and who is sort of allowed to be a part of what Jesus is speaking on, you know, is serving the Master of Truth, serving the Father, to be a disciple, to acknowledge the path and all of that. So 26, fear them not, therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known. And I love how this is such a truth of service in general, when we understand the exchanges that go along with energetics, and how the spirit layer in itself is sort of the collectivity realm of all of the happenings, and much like an Akashic record or anything, if you've heard of something like that before, or it's much like a blockchain, if you've heard of blockchain these days, with a record of all exchanges. It's much like that, and it's all polarity is sort of sequential, you know. It holds a marker of what has happened before it. It isn't linear, and all is not accumulated in the same fashion, because there's a mindful balancing that happens with inner energies, I believe, and I feel, and but there's a record keeping anyways. And the service and intention speak for themselves, because if you are flowing from positive alignment and you're holding positive polarity, there's just certain exchanges that you're not going to be involved in. But when you are seeking a negative alignment, there's, you know, a lot you're going to be involved in, and quite distinctly you will be known by what you would not be involved in, which is freely offered service. Anything that doesn't benefit you, you know, directly, they just won't be a part of. And again, that this, like I was saying about the lies versus the truth, and the covering up, and how the original template is underneath all of it, and all that the lies and evil or demons, Satan, Beelzebub, anything, like, all they're doing is piling crap on top of the truth. Underneath it can never be tainted or changed. And Jesus speaks this many times in many different ways and with such great confidence, and trying to tell everyone else how to have confidence in it too, to know this is the true workings of it. you know, all the inverted distortions that they attempt to do, you can never change the whole picture. You can never change the truth. All you can do is manipulate and distort its image. And then try to force and make others believe that your distortions are the image, or forget the original image in such a manner that you would replace it with this artificial one in some manner. But Jesus knows, and much like so many of us know, the truth always comes through, and the truth is, it can never be anything but what it is. What I tell you in darkness, that speak ye in light. What ye hear in the ear, that preach ye upon the housetops. I love this, and I feel like this is, again, I'm going to bring it like I did in last session and tie it to the previous verses and talk about that living life consciously, awake and aware in that co-creative partnership with Jesus, with the Father, with your higher self, with infinite intelligence, and the co-creative space that's all around us, that this world is made up of. Living life like a synchronicity walk is what I say a lot of times. Being as aware to all of the happenings as you can, and trying to listen and take in input, and allow a good space of communication and communion in your day and throughout your movements and choices, and when you interact with others in the external world, because they all have layered languages, mind, body, and spirit, which are transversing out these languages that each of us tries to translate and hear from others and work with and build with. And I feel when we are listening, when we're quiet within ourselves, we hear that. Just like there's so many references that he will speak to you in the darkness, whisper in your ear. I love these things because he literally telling you, the Father, the inner voice, that conscious voice in there is the key, is the Father, is that source of infinite intelligence, is your higher self, knows that best route, knows the best potentials in the moment. And I think there's a deeper connectivity between the humans, than we believe, than we are, want to acknowledge or admit to ourselves or anything these days. But I really think there's an original sort of intranet that connect all of us with telepathy and empathy, a better body language, and a reverberance that, would be much more connected to truth, and that would help us communicate these things which we feel and see within our mind's eye and within our hearts and our souls, that are so hard to describe. They're so beautiful, that are just miraculous things that, I know so many, and I've talked to so many people, so I know this is true, that we have so many thoughts within us that are unexplainable, that are wonderful, and we want to share, and those things come from somewhere, my point being. And that place, I believe, is beautiful, benevolent space, and that we each do have a connectivity to it. And so when I read these words, initially, and each time that I hear him reference speaking in the darkness, or whispering in your ear, or hearing within you the answer, the call, just... I can't help but align with it, It's so wonderful. It's such a valid external confirmation of different variety, too, because it's such a different place than I would expect to find parallel thoughts and workings. It's not somewhere that I originally thought was full of esoteric energy alchemy, keys to wisdom. I thought it was morals and ethics and be good, do good. And yeah, I get that. That's part of energies. Energetics is, that's the kindergarten watered down version of it. But I didn't expect to find senior level work here, you know? And for somebody who, I might just even be a freshman, I'm not even a senior. It's inspiring. It's eye-opening, you know, and it's humbling as well. I just can't stop enjoying it and reading and hearing and picking it apart and then coming back to it, you know? So, forgive me, I'm drinking my morning coffee and I'm not going to bother editing. So, bear with me, the background noises. Let's pick it up back with 28. And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. Now, let's just think about this here for a second before I even go on. Fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul. What is he saying? And who's the them? And then, wow, to think about, to hear him speak plainly, that kill the body and it doesn't impact the soul, right? And again, you know, knowing what's set in front of him, I'm not quite sure if he knew he was bound for crucifixion or not. I'm not quite sure what the story behind that is, and maybe they tell it different ways too. I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But even just to not fear death in itself is a unique perspective for, you know, a lot of people don't come from that perspective alone. And especially during the times that they're all facing, and persecution and executions and things like that, that even, you know, nowadays there's such parallels to it. Persecution, execution, there's exile, you know, there's literal, you know, ways to be imprisoned, and then there's the social media canceling kind of version, that both of those are taking place. There's the killing off of, you know, choking off of the communication, but there's also, you know, they're literally Xing out all types of people. They've been doing that for years, you know, spiritual leaders onto anything, naturopaths onto anything, anybody who has strong standing and voice who could really oppose the negative, unhappy, and unwell image they're trying to sell to everybody. But anyways, he says, fear them not, right? But rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. And again, sorry for the coffee, but I have heard a couple of different versions, and I don't know, somebody out there might be a familiar liking or disliking Aaron Abke. I tend to, you know, be on a fence about him, but he brings forth, you know, a lot of things that are worth thinking about and looking into. And he has interesting translations about this, some of these scriptures and the terms and references of hell, when Jesus references hell. If you're interested in hearing more, you know, deeply about that, definitely go check him out in reference to that term, because he's got a couple of different videos, and they're very interesting to think about. But if we even just take one version of that, like I spoke about a bit in 17, which is like nowadays is a hellish world around us. Some people even say this is hell, and this is sort of the devil's playground here. You know, I've been known to say that even myself, although I won't get into sort of the gradient of my own interpretations, yeah. But to think, like, of all of the things around us that we have choices of us to destroy our soul and body with, there's so much self-hate, detrimental activities, sponsoring of activities that are harmful, that are, you know, totally deplete health, that rot brains, rot souls. I mean, they don't even want you connected to spirit or inner purpose at all. And that is really what we should be afraid of. And it's so unfortunate that people like put off death and fear, or have these giant fears about when they do die, because, oh, I've made all these bad choices, oh, because I haven't done this, oh, because I haven't done that. And it's like, well, why don't you just do the couple of things that you're so frightful of, or that you're so worrisome about? Correct them now. And then when you do, you have no fear left over. When you pass, it's a great coming home. It's a self-reckoning. It's a nod of recognition to the hard time that you had here, but you did your best. You can say, I did my best. Why do we sell ourselves short here? Break ourselves down to be a part of all the brokenness that we see around us, of course. And again, so it's a hell world that we're sort of a part of. But it's not something that we should take to crumple us, to become victims of, or to say, oh, it's all gone to hell around me, so I might as well. We should take that as an acknowledgement that for bettering ourselves even more, and to not fear, to live even more vivaciously for positivity and for well-being. Into 29, this is sort of what I feel like is here. There's many different translations and explanations to the sort of scriptures, and like I've noted before in some other sessions, I'm not from a traditional studying point, so I don't even know, but some of these, it seems like a mashup of different conversations that aren't very well in sequence, and some of it might not be contextually in order. It seems like there's either pieces missing, or it jumps around, and it's kind of like topic, and yeah, I get this. Of course, like these are things that are written years later, and it's quick jot downs that somebody put on, not verbatim. It's not like that, but at the same time, sort of the church attempts to teach it that it is. So when I call that out, it's kind of like call out tradition, because there's this sort of external portrayal that it is, that it is verbatim, that's never been touched, and that it was sort of just a scribe writing every single thing down, here to here to here, in these happenings, and then it was held, in without being touched, under glass somewhere, and never edited, and never, and this is the exact clippings of what happened. But anyways, into 29. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall on the ground without your Father? But the very hairs on your head are all numbered. Fear ye not, therefore, ye are of more value than many sparrows. For whosoever therefore shall confess me before men, him I will confess also before my Father which is in heaven. Now, I really think here, especially, the term me, and to confess me before my Father, I really feel sometimes a better translation is the truth here, in himself, he's referring to an honest, transparent, positively aligned, truth-based being who acts, lives, and speaks honorably in alignment with the intention spiritually which comes through them, as a transparent prism, an open vessel, an instrument who plays clearly the tune of the Father, which comes from source through them, and to that, when he says shall confess me before men, it means to speak the truth of him, of Jesus, of what his teachings are, of what the knowledge behind the Christ consciousness is, behind the Christ within us, and that communion between the Father and the Son that is open for us, should we stand to embrace it and live with it, right? But the actions and the intentions are what matter. And if you live in congruency with those, then of course, Jesus is saying that I would vouch for you. I speak for you. The truth is in alignment with you, and it will be known in presence of the Father, which is in heaven. The ultimate judgment, right? But whosoever shall deny me before men, I will also deny before my Father, which is in heaven. Right? It's also like, just like I spoke about before, if we embrace the life and do these things while we're alive, you're all set. You can't try to make the reckoning at the passing. It doesn't work like that. The acknowledgement of the issue needs to come before the consequences can be given. Otherwise, there's no learning happening. There's no reason for consequences yet if the reckoning hasn't come to, and now I'm almost at half an hour. I think I might just leave this session here. There's so much that I really, in here in chapter 10, and there's so much more to go with the last couple of verses that I'd really like to speak on. And I have to cut it now, so I think, in the next couple of minutes I would really need to wrap it up. So I think instead of going on with these next verses, which are so powerful, and there again, they tie back to what we've already read here, in 17 actually, which was back at verses 21, 22, where he's explaining and reiterating to them that when you set yourself on this path, when you choose truth and your highest good, and you choose to speak it, and follow him, and maybe I'll get onto this in another time and place, but he was such a figurehead, a needed, pivotal archetype to come through for people to rally around, to be that sort of 100th monkey, so to speak, to be the point of showing that it is possible, but also in the possibilities and in the attainment of choosing that step forward, living in this, the light of the Father, basically, and truth and honesty, and you're going to be pinned against those around you. And like he said in 21, the brother shall deliver up brother to death, the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents. It's a hard place to be at but what we're really caring for them in this kind of way when we're rising up against them, because we're sick of lies and we want truth, right? We've had a similar display in the world lately in the last few years, and no matter where your choices have lied at, it's been a challenging world, and I really feel like this is another way of another signifying avenue of the way the scriptures play out and the way that it is similar times. So I think I really am going to leave it there now. I've talked a little 2 more minutes longer than I wanted to. Thank you so much for joining me for this in-between session, the middle of chapter 10, session 18, March 31st. Oh my gosh. And if you're looking for anything in the meantime, feel free to find me on amariespeaks.com or over on Telegram at amariespeaks. Have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are in the world, whenever you're listening to this. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you next time.